Another topic I wanted to touch is how to write characters that are themselves bigoted, right? And this is something that you talk about in the book.
Yeah.
I think the example of our parents' generation used to be like Archie Bunker type of character, but I never really watched that show. And I think in our generation, it's Tony Soprano is like a better reference point for people, because obviously he's a bad guy, but he's also the center of the show. He's someone for whom a lot of empathy and sympathy is built over the seasons. If that weren't true, the show wouldn't work. But when his daughter brings home a black boyfriend, he's racist about it. I mean, casual racism, casual homophobia. In fact, hardened homophobia, violent homophobia at times. And so, how does the publishing industry today, in the era of sensitivity readers, treat the writing of bigoted characters?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I interviewed a woman, I'm not going to say her name, but a very influential literary agent who's been in this game for decades. If you look at the list of authors she represents, it's sort of like a who's who of contemporary literature. And she was telling me on the phone about being in a meeting recently, and this was really just emblematic of the current climate, where they were talking about a historical novel with the publisher. And in this novel, there's a character who says and does misogynistic things. And, she said there was red flags from the publisher and editorial assistant, pointing to these passages where this character says these things. And from their perspective, they were kind of like, this is misogynistic language. Like, this shouldn't be in the book. And she's telling me over the phone that her response was just very straightforward. She was like, this is 1850. Like, this is how they talk. What are we talking? This is how they talk. But there are people, the true believers, who genuinely believe that even having that in the book is problematic. It's problematic because it's going to make a reader feel uncomfortable. It's problematic because maybe
it should make them feel uncomfortable.
Sure.
Maybe that's the point.
Sure. It's uncomfortable because maybe it will, someone will read that and think it's cool that a character is talking like that. There's sort of, those are the arguments, right? But I think even people who see those arguments as profoundly stupid, who work in publishing, they're concerned about the bottom line. And the number of incidents at this point that have affected the bottom line are innumerable. So these people will say, I don't think it makes a book misogynistic to have a misogynistic character. That's profoundly stupid. But what I'm worried about is this cabal of people on Twitter and Goodreads who are going to screenshot this passage before the book even comes out.
Right.
And now that's the big blow up, and it gets picked up on the New York Times.
And that will define the book on the internet, that one passage out of context.
Yeah. Like, I've talked to people like that who are like, Adam, like, I agree with you down the line. Like, I think that's crazy. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to sell books. Mm-hmm. And I'm also trying to get this great book attention. And I don't want the attention to shift to this other thing that really has nothing to do with the book. But it's really unfortunate, right? So to your question, right, obviously there still are books that have a racist in them or misogynistic. I would say far fewer books and far sort of like, a sort of different kind of racism, sexism. And in those cases, it's going to be easier to publish that book with a mainstream press if those characters get privilege checked or if they have their comeuppance. Mm-hmm. So what you don't want is a conversation with two characters where one character says something racist or anti-Semitic or sexist, and then the narrative just continues on. What you want is a character who can
They need to get struck by lightning right after they say it, right?
Yeah. They want a character who's going to be a voice of reason and counter that. Mm-hmm. But, I grew up, my own literary tastes, especially when I was younger, were sort of novels about bad characters who don't get their comeuppance. Like, I love the novel American Psycho. One of my favorite novels. It's a Wall Street banker who's racist, anti-Semitic, homophobic, kills people, rapes people. And at the end of the novel, he doesn't go to jail. He doesn't confess anything. He doesn't admit he was wrong. He just sort of like continues on. And, I love those books just at an aesthetic level. I find them very entertaining.
No Country for Old Men.
Yeah, 100%. I like those books a lot, but I also think like from a more sociological perspective, like that's how the world works. Like that's once you start eliminating those characters from books, we're losing the verisimilitude of literature. The ideal world that these people want, where like everyone who makes a racist comment or does a sexist thing like gets their comeuppance, that's not the world we live in. So then, is the purpose of literature to only create sort of like an ideal world? I would argue no. And I would argue if you care about art, that's not the function of art. And it can be a function of art, but when you have these people running around sort of dictating what art should be, what literature should be, and if you have a different understanding of that, then you yourself must be racist or sexist. I mean, those people are creating real problems, like for just aesthetics broadly conceived.